Hi everyone, this is Ashley with CT Mina Digitals. I'm going to show a tutorial on how to use my new draped chiffon fabric backdrops in Photoshop. I have opened the image that I am going to use. This backdrop is actually from my seamless paper texture collection that you can find in my Etsy shop as well. I can link that in the description. So this is I have opened the backdrop that I want to use for my image, and I'm just going to go over to my image. I'm going to go to my quick selection tool and select subject. Wait for that to work. Okay, and it looks like it's selected pretty good other than down here. So you just want to use your plus and minus selection tools to select and deselect. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my layer, create a layer mask, press Control or Command I on my keyboard to invert that layer. I'm going to come over to my backdrop here, and I'm just going to select all, edit, copy, edit, and paste into my image. Go ahead and resize. Don't have to get it perfect for now, just good enough. And then I'm going to you can either hold down Alt on your keyboard and click between these layers, or you can right click your layer and create clipping mask, which it moved around on me in Photoshop. Okay, so now she's in the image. We want to flip the image flip the background because the light is coming from the opposite way. I do recommend doing that and not flipping your subject, as it will flip their features on their body. Okay, so you could add shadows in here, but what you can also do, which is a lot easier, if you find a backdrop that semi-matches the brightness and tone of the floor that you're already using, you can just go ahead, and I'm actually not going to do it on my mask. I'm going to brush it off of the backdrop. So if I need to brush it back on, it's not going to affect my subject. So I'm going to create a layer mask on that, and I'm going to go over to my soft black brush at 100% opacity, and I'm just going to start down here at the very bottom and feather it up a bit. And my floor matches well enough to where this looks natural. So if I zoom in, as you can see a little bit of the texture change in here. So I can make a little bit smaller of a brush and use a little bit smaller of an opacity and just kind of blend those floors together. As you see, I'm not coming all the way back here because I don't want to take away from my fabric. And now the original floor is here, so I don't have to brush in any shadows for her at all. I have her far enough away from the backdrop to where there wouldn't be shadow from her. And I'm actually going to move this up a little bit too. There we go. And now I'm also, since she's so far away from the backdrop, I want to add quite a bit of blur to that. So I'm going to go make sure my backdrop is selected. I'm going to filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. And I'm going to do about 6.5. Press OK. Okay, and now I'm going to come down to my layer mask on my subject, and I'm going to go around my subject and clean up the edges here. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's kind of self-explanatory, but this is something you definitely want to do. Don't forget this because there's probably going to be parts that are missing. So go ahead and 100% opacity black brush is going to brush your subject back on, or brush the backdrop. You're on the, basically brushing on or off the backdrop. So brushing the backdrop off of her. And then press X on your keyboard to switch between your black and your white layer. Definitely make sure these are already black and white and you're not using different color. And then just go around the whole image and clean it up. Like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it can be tedious depending on fabric and everything that you're using. But once again, you don't have to do anything with the floor or the bottom that you already brushed off, because that's already should be edited within your image. Her hair, or this is actually the feathers from the dress sticking out. That's not her hair. The feathers got kind of wonky over here. You can either just use a white brush and just brush off completely the ones that aren't really showing up as well, just to clean that up so it doesn't look like so it doesn't look bad. Sorry, you're probably gonna hear my dog barking. I swear it's like almost every video now. Zoom out. Before and after. That one was pretty simple to do. If you're needing to paint in shadows, it could be a little bit harder. If we were to paint our backdrop back in here, oops. We would need to go in and completely, I mean, you would still want to use a black brush at a low opacity here and kind of just brush it off of down here where you can, so the dress blends a little bit better. But you would have to you would have to come down to your mask, and you would completely have to go around and get rid of parts of the backdrop that copied over. I'm going to do a quick job of this again. Okay, I'm just going to... So you would then need to paint onto the backdrop. So you would need to create another layer. Or you could... I don't recommend, because you can't get rid of it. You could use your like burn tool on certain areas to create shadows, but I don't recommend doing that because you can't easily edit it again. I would create a new layer and clip it on multiply blending mode. And I would grab a dark part of the floor and brush in shadows. Lower that opacity a lot. And then I would create another layer and just do a make sure you create that clipping mask again, so it's just on your backdrop. Did I do it already? Oh, no. Okay. Oops. And I would do a very thin, multiply blending mode, thin line underneath her toes. And you could play around with that. It's a light floor, so you're not going to have too much shadow. I would just keep adding. I like to add my shadows on different layers so I can work with them individually. And then you would need to come down again, and you would need to go around the very edge of her foot here to clean up all, oops, of that. And if you have too sharp, if it seems like you have too sharp of an edge, like even right in here where those light lines are, that's going to show, so you'll have to get rid of that. After I was done doing this, once you flatten your image, once you're done with it, I would go ahead and grab your blur tool and just blur the edge of that foot just a tiny bit, if you're adding, only if you're adding in your own shadows, because that helps blend it. Otherwise, I would just stick with keeping your own floor. It makes it a lot easier. If you have any questions, you can message me on Etsy. If you are a studio photographer, I would love for you to join my group on Facebook. It is linked in the description.